Tell them to do it. I love it. You know, a lot of people out there just don't like being told what to do. I'm like that. If I was listening to people and they were just blasting text bars, this book, they were tearing the pages apart, I would say, I think I'm going to go buy that book. Sounds interesting. It's the first book ever in the world on this subject. Wow, this guy dares to say things that others don't say. I'm going to get that book for myself, regardless of what these yokels on the air are saying. That's why you're a contrarian. You know what a contrarian is? They hear the way the world does it, and you go and do it the opposite way. And most of the time, you're correct. Most of the world rejected Jesus, even his own disciples. They had it all wrong, didn't they? They had it all wrong. The British wanted to kill George Washington. They certainly did after he defeated them. His army did, the Continental Army. They had it all wrong, didn't they? He became the great hero of America, our first great president, George Washington. They had it wrong. Friends, a lot of people have things wrong. When the Wright brothers first flew their aircraft in 1905 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, it was in a newspaper article about it, men fly. And people laughed at them, scientists, professors. And they said, oh, isn't that stupid? Men will never fly. They were reading it. They thought it was a hoax. They thought these people had pulled off a good one on the local reporter. Men will never fly, they said. Well, look up in the air. You can see the airplanes now, can't you? Yeah, they're up there, my friends. There was I read, this is a true story. I think it was, what year was it? Was it 1905 or 1910, around that era? The head of the U.S. Patent Office resigned. He said, there's really nothing left to invent. Everything has already been invented. There's nothing left to invent, so I'm resigning my position. Well, what about the aircraft? What about the radio, the TV, the lasers, the iPhone? Everything's been invented since that time. But he had said, there's nothing left to invent. I'm telling you, friends, what we know in science is only a little bitty thimbleful. You know how little a thimble is? Now, if you don't know sewing, I guess you don't know a thimble. But I do. I know what a thimble is. My mother had one. My wife has them too. Little bitty thimble protects your pinky or something. I've never sewed with it, so it doesn't get stuck with a pen or the needle. Now, I want you to get this book. Please get this book. Jerry, I've never begged a person before to buy a book, but I really want people to buy this book. Okay, I've said it 100 times. I'll just quit, but do buy the book. Now, it's in our webpage, powerofprophecy.com or textmars.com. Powerofprophecy.com. You can go right onto it. Right there on the home page, it says new book by Tex Mars, DNA Science in the Jewish Bloodline. Get on that and order the book right now today. You can even go, hey, I'll just say this, although it doesn't help our ministry very much, but you can go on Amazon.com and buy the book. Amazon.com and get the book. Barnes & Noble, they can go to barnesandnoble.com. You go to your Christian bookstore too and ask them to order it for you. They can get it from Ingram, the largest Christian distributor. They sure can. All right, now we're going to go to our regular program. We're talking about why the Khazars are so angry at historians and archaeologists and, yes, DNA scientists. You see, they want to be special. This takes away the fact that they're God's chosen. I'm God's chosen. You can't take that away from me. Well, I get all this land. And you know, if I'm a Jew, then that means my grandfather died at the Holocaust and you got to keep giving me money. Yeah, they give them money. Reparations from Germany, they do. It's a lot of money too, really goes up. I want all this. They've got the nuclear bomb from America. They've got submarines with ICBM aimed at their enemies. They've got a huge military force. It's claimed they're the 4th or 5th largest military force in the world. They're a little bitty country. How did they get all that? The United States. Somebody wrote me and said, isn't it a miracle how Israel has defeated all of its enemies ever since 1948. No, it's not a miracle. It's called the USA. We've given them those trillions of dollars worth of equipment, or they would have been obliterated by now. That's how you call it USA, my friends. How do I know that? I was in the U.S. Air Force for over 20 years, and I know about all the shipments we made to Israel. They got stuff before the United States got it. Generals, admirals were boiling mad because as soon as it came off the assembly line, Israel got it because of their Jewish lobby in America. Whatever Israel wants, it gets. They control our Congress. They control practically everything. But you know what? They don't control Texmars. They don't have anything to do with me. I've been audited by the IRS, visited by the FBI, and I don't even know how many times the ADL or some other groups probably called us up and tried to find things out from us. I bet I have a file on the CIA that must be a mile high, Jerry. You know it? Some people say, why don't you ask on the Freedom of Information Act and get your file at the CIA? You've been doing this for 30 some odd years, 40 years. I bet you have a CIA file, feet high. I don't want to read about me. I already know about me. What they found out about me, I already know. I don't care if I find out more about me. In fact, if they'd have just come down and sit down, I'd give them a cup of coffee, said, what do you want to know? They probably spent millions investigating Texmars. I'd tell them for free. In fact, if they'd give millions to all of this ministry, I'd tell them all again. That's the way to do it, right? I need to write them a letter. Please don't spend millions of dollars. Just send it to my ministry. Then I can do more work for the Lord Jesus. No, that's crazy, isn't it? It's a crazy world. I have nothing to hide. I have gained a couple pounds lately. I'm not going to tell my wife that. Whew. I got on the scales, the other day, and I said, she said, what did you weigh? I said, it's not bad, dear, not bad. Yeah, but how much is it? I said, it's, I sort of did my voice, I didn't tell her at all that I'd gained 3 pounds. Or if I'd done that, she'd been bugging me for weeks. Now you've got to lose that 3. Okay, so I keep secrets. Don't be on my back for that, folks. I'm sorry. I've gained 3 pounds. Don't tell her. Don't tell Wanda. She'll bug me to death. That's because she loves me. She always says, well, I'm going to be mad at you if you're dead. I'm going to be so mad at you. If you die from this, if you die from a heart attack, I'm going to be so mad. I said, you're not going to be mad. You're going to be crying. You miss me. You love me. No, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad. She just loves that. She thinks she's going to be mad. She just pictures herself being angry, looking down at a casket of Texmar saying, he could have saved himself by losing weight. Look at that. I don't think she's going to say that. But she might. She might say, I told you so. I told you. Now listen, folks. The Khazar Jews do not want to be Khazars, but they are. That's what the newest DNA science has proved. But they reject this science. They reject all of history. They say, to hell with science. To hell with science. Now, Dr. Shlomo Sand, who is himself is Israeli, he's a professor over there, I think, at the University of Tel Aviv. He had the best-selling book entitled The Invention of the Jewish People. Now, get that title. The Invention of the Jewish People. He said this. He said, now when this new research DNA came out and proved the ancestry of the so-called Jews is Khazar, not Israelite. When the Khazar Jews got angry about it, he said, some people, historians, and even scientists turn a blind eye to the truth. Wow. They have turned a blind eye to the truth. Now, the truth is slowly sinking in. They're not the seed of Father Abraham, but rather are of the bloodline of the ancient King Bulan from Khazaria. So the Khazars, who are the vast majority of today's people calling themselves Jews, are becoming frantic. They're concocting lies and myths. And they're accusing modern-day scholars of falsely labeling them as Gentiles. Now, that is a no-no. Now I want you to think of that, folks. Truth is turned on its end, but it still stays truth. You can say what you want to about truth, but it's still truth. You can say a rose is a petunia, but it's still a rose. They're still Gentiles. The Khazarians are Gentiles. Now this is bad. This is very bad for them. You see, in their minds, and it is true, in their Jewish Talmud, which is their holy book, the greatest book in all the Jewish faith is not the Torah, not the Bible, it's the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. That's the name of it. In their yeshivas, in their religious schools, the rabbis, so-called, do not learn about the Bible. Now that's an astonishing fact. They study 5, 10, 15 years. They study the Talmud. You know, I've got a copy of the Talmud. I had to get it on software. Why? Because it's 36 volumes. 36 volumes long. I've got it on software myself. You can order it too online. You know, buy it. It's at $300 or $400 on the software. But don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it. It's pretty horrible. I'm going to write a book about it and tell you what the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, says. Horrible things about you, a Gentile. It says the best of the Gentiles should be killed. First of all, it says Gentiles are no better than slaves, servants. They are meant to serve the Jews. But the best of them are too dangerous. They're too crafty. They're too smart. We got to go ahead and kill them. When they win their kingdom, they say they will control planet Earth. Then will the Jews kill all of the smart Gentiles. Because the Gentile or Goyim, they're less than human beings. They're like brute animals. Do you look in the mirror and see a donkey? Well, that's what Rabbi Obadiah Yosef, one of the top rabbis in Israel, they says you are. You're a donkey. 2013, he says that all Gentiles are donkeys. And they're made by God to serve us as Jews. And that's all you're made for. You're a donkey. He's one of the most popular rabbis in Israel because that's the kind of things he preaches. But he said it's not a theory. It is true because it's in their Talmud. And their Talmud is true because who wrote it? The rabbis did. And they say, the rabbis, that they are superior to God. That God goes to them for consultation and advice. When God has a spiritual question, he goes and asks the rabbis. See how that turns things around? The truth is turned on end. I don't believe God asks anyone for any advice.